Thank you very much, Željko, and thank you very much to the fellow panelists for the indeed very interesting and encouraging presentations. I'm not going to run you through all my slides. I just strongly believe that a visual is better than 100 words, and there are 2 or 3 slides that I would very much like to show you. But we have heard now from the founder, godfather of the decade, and the efforts of OSI. We heard about the European framework from colleagues from the Commission, and we also heard very encouraging words about the compatibility and hopefully future close cooperation between the decade and the renewed platform for EU inclusion. And this afternoon, tomorrow, we will be hearing a lot about government efforts in developing the strategies and moving the Roma inclusion agenda ahead. So where does the World Bank stand, or where does the World Bank play in this? Well, first, we are very excited that we are now in a period which I would dare to describe as post-advocacy period, that we are moving from a period which was really concentrating a lot on advocacy into hopefully premeditated policy making. And we are very excited that hopefully also with our contribution and the analytical and policy rigor that the bank, also with partners like UNDP, etc., can bring to the table, is moving from sometimes mythological policymaking to evidence-based policymaking. And we would very much want to move into a situation where the traditional sort of no data trap, as I would call it, you know, every meeting of many of you that I see in the audience over the last several years talked about the lack of data and how something cannot be done because we don't really know. We have some great news on that front. I'll get to that in a second. And what has been happening in my own country, in neighboring countries, across the countries with large Roma populations, is that often it was not evidence but impressions, feelings on the better side, and on the more negative side, stereotypes and prejudices that were guiding policy making. To just use one example for all, the paradigm goes something like this. Roma are lazy, Roma don't want to work, and Roma live off of social benefits, and therefore we need to make social benefits lesser because work should pay, and so therefore we concentrate on these demand side measures and not really look at what is the supply side of work opportunities, or what is in fact reality behind some of these feelings. So reality check ahead. This is a graph that shows that vast majority of Roma in the 3 countries that are on that, where this research was done, vast majority of Roma do not depend on social assistance. In Bulgaria, only 16%, Romania 12%, Serbia 25%. So by no means this is a majority, and if you compare this with the public perception graphs, there is a vast difference. So things like this, we hope that will slowly erode some of the stereotypes and some of the deeply felt beliefs that unfortunately all too often guide policymakers. What have we been doing from the bank? I'm just going to make 4 examples of what we have been busy on over the last 12 months, and looking also into the near future as the EU framework for national Roma integration strategies unfolds. Well, the first one I'll mention is that it was here a year ago, not quite a year ago, in Prague, with Gabriela's help, where the World Bank launched, unfortunately, a little bit incognito and without the press. So I'm delighted to, hopefully there are some press people still left after lots of them here at the opening ceremony. We launched a study which originally was called Cost of Exclusion, and then politically correctly we called it Benefits of Inclusion, that actually for 4 countries, Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, and the Czech Republic, calculates the economic losses from the exclusion of the Roma community, which is particularly relevant in this part of the world that has the most dismal demographic trends, much worse than Western Europe. And with the growing with the lessening of the majority populations, the relative size of the incoming population that is of Roma origin to the labor force, or not coming to the labor force, is shifting, and therefore it's going to be extremely difficult for countries in this region in the next 15-20 years to actually have enough labor supply of sufficient educational attainment unless action takes place now. Demographics is one of these things that very little attention is paid to, but it ticks like a clock. You can right now calculate how your labor market will look 20 years from now, because the people are born already now, and it matters whether they are in a creche and in a kindergarten, or whether they are running on the streets barefoot. So that was the first initiative. The second initiative that is currently taking place, and it has been done under the guidance and with the financial input from colleagues from the European Commission, from DG for Regional Policy, and that's monitoring and evaluation of policies under a European Parliament pilot project on early childhood education and on microcredit. And hopefully, since both of these areas are right in the middle of what the Commission considers as 4 key areas, which I very much agree with, hopefully the evaluation of these policies will be a good, now has clients, this evaluation, and hopefully we will be able to derive some very good lessons from experience. But as part of this pilot, and this thought came a little later through the implementation, I would like to congratulate the colleagues from the Commission for taking this step. We changed the terms of reference, and with UNDP we are currently running a major, really the biggest household survey of marginalized Roma communities throughout new member states and Western Balkans, and really in a groundbreaking fashion we actually managed to put it together with the Fundamental Rights Agency, which is an executive agency of DG Justice, that is running a perception survey.
Of the European Union.
Sorry, of the European Union. run by DigiJustice or whatever, supervised by DigiJustice. From behind the scenes. But we managed to put these perceptions and the household economic social reality survey together and have a set of common questions, and they are also reaching beyond the new member states, also in a number of old member states. So, and the results are going to be coming out in August or September. Jaro, correct me if I'm getting that wrong. And this really will be the time when we will be able to get past the, oh, we have no data, we don't know what we can do, and really be also a benchmark or a starting point for all the future monitoring and a lot of policy making. As part of the pilot, and this is the second graph that I would like to show you, as part of the pilot I mentioned that the biggest portion of it is on early childhood education, and it was George Soros who was talking about the need for special care and special mentoring for Roma children, for them to have a chance in the education system. It's nice to say they all should finish primary education, but when you come from really disadvantaged background, it's very difficult to compete even in the first grade. And this has been the experience country by country. You have the shocking and shameful experiences of Czech Republic, Slovakia to lead. They lead the pack in systematically sending kids to schools for mentally handicapped, because the kids don't have the background to really start in the mainstream education system. They're tested, and the tests are culturally very specific. So it's there are European Court of Human Rights cases mandating the countries to do something about it. But again, the paradigm goes like this, and I hear this wherever I go. Roma culture is different. Roma parents don't like to send kids to school, and Roma don't want to send kids to preschool education. They want to keep them in home because they want to inculcate their special culture. And I heard this many times. Well, this is what research shows. And this is a study that is taking place, evaluation of the pilot I was mentioning in Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Macedonia. It's done by Roma Education Fund under a Good Start project. Nearly all Roma parents think that early childhood education is important for having a good future. And look at the numbers, 92, 94, 92, 95. Then I don't have a slide here. I was showing it in Bratislava at the high-level event. When you look at the supply of educational institutions, then two countries are doing more or less all right. My own country, Slovakia, and I think it was Macedonia on that graph, don't have sufficient spaces. So the kids that, or I don't want to mention which one it was. I can look it up on my old presentation. In other words, the desire that one would have as a Roma parent to have kids go to educational establishment at the age of 3 or 4, just like my son goes, are not able to go for the lack of such institutions. So that's just another myth, and I'm going to stop with slides here. Two last points. We are currently in discussions with the governments of Slovakia and Bulgaria on the development of the strategy of Roma integration, and I just want to say here, we are very excited about it, and I was very encouraged to listen to Aurel and Lenya before, because I completely agree, strategy should not be a piece of paper. There are so many strategies that get written down by a small group of people and then get shelved and never implemented. So we very much want to work on a strategy that is done in a participatory manner, because we believe that the process of creation of a strategy is almost as important as the result. Second, it needs to be a strategy that's implementable, that has issues in it that have clear path on how policies get created and how they get implemented. And three, that has very realistic financial plan attached to each of the actions or streams or policies. And the last, of course, this is Aurel's strong belief, which I completely agree with. It needs to have goals that are monitorable and that one is able to see whether something is being achieved or not. Do I have 30 seconds?
30, yes.
30 seconds, okay. And the last fourth issue, and that's the example that I've given before. We also are, as you know, in the discussion with various parties about how to make a geographic representation, and I was very encouraged to hear Lenya talk about, in the context of Roma integration, about poverty and the poverty target of Europe 2020, because all too often one hears from policymakers, how can we target resources to where the Roma live? We don't know where the Roma live, we don't have ethnic statistics. You're not going to have the ethnic statistics from the household survey, but there are other ways of getting at that, and we are hoping that this is a poverty map of Bulgaria going to NUTS 4 level, which is allowed to in the new nomenclature, and that's developed in combining SILK survey that's collected in all of the EU every year, and a census from 2001. We now have a new round of censuses coming in, and so we are very excited that both in Bulgaria and Slovakia, perhaps even further, we'll be able to make maps like this, and those can also be used in the very well in the discussion about the financing for the next round of the structural funds, which I'm also hoping, along with you, that a lot more of those will go to Roma integration in the future than in the past. Thank you very much.